Okay. And I'm gonna put it in my mouth on the floor. Like, I don't care. This is my thing. Like, I could be like, I could smoke weed and come to work smell like weed, but I chew gum.
Okay, what's your name?
My name is Kotic Couture.
Okay, and how old are you?
I'm 27.
Okay, so who are you on a soul level?
Wow. I think I'm a really spiritual person. I'm caring. I care a lot about people around me. Even people I don't know, but people definitely directly connected to me. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna like a spiritually soulful, like connected person. I don't think it takes a lot for me to connect with you.
Okay, so is there anything that's happened in the past or anything that's going on right now that has really contributed to this person that you've become?
I mean, like everybody, I got bullied a lot when I was growing up, and I lived in like a rural area, so I was very different. I'm from the Eastern Shore.
Okay.
Yes. So,
I went to Salisbury.
Yes, so it's like out there. So even where Salisbury is, I'm like 2 hours away from there. So it's like in the middle of nowhere. And I just always told myself I want to treat people the way that I wish people treated me. And there's just no sense of being like crazy, like rude or disrespectful to people. So that really just contributed to the way that I interact with people now.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to give you 3 categories, and I want you to tell me what means the most to you and what means the least, and you can break them up however you want to, mix and match.
Okay.
So the first category is love, sex, relationships.
Okay.
The next category is society, culture, politics.
Okay.
And the next category is spirituality and or religion.
Okay.
Because everybody don't put those.
Right, okay.
So for you, what takes the front seat out of all of those?
Out of all 3 of those?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I think spirituality for me is like the highest.
Okay.
Because that has a lot to do with the way that you treat people and your belief system and everything around you. So I think spirituality and then love and relationships.
Let's back up real quick.
Okay.
Spirituality is first.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit about what your spiritual life is like. What do you believe? What are your practices?
I wasn't like deeply religious growing up. My parents never forced me to go to church or anything like that, but I used to go to church a lot. And I never really liked, like growing up, going to a Methodist church, I never really liked organized religion. Like I just didn't feel like it was a thing for me. And again, like growing up in the middle of nowhere, you have people who are like Muslim, you have like the Amish community was very close to us. So I feel like you take these practices of other people around you and you take the things that work for you and kind of like work that into your being. So like for me, spirituality just means like treating everybody like the same, treating everybody with love, putting love first with everything, just like leading with compassion. And forgiveness, I think, is an important thing that me spiritually, I have to always like forgive people. Even if somebody hurt me deeply or something hurt me deeply, it's only going to affect me in the long run. So I take different spiritual practices from everything I've crossed in my life.
Okay, that's beautiful. So you said love and relationships are next without the sex part.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me a little bit. Are you single?
I am single.
Okay. How's dating been? Is that something you're into right now, or like?
Growing up in an area where there wasn't a lot of queer people, I feel like the ages where everybody like experimented and dated, I was like, I'm gonna practice my craft. Like, I'm gonna do this music. I'm gonna work on this. So music just became like my focus all the time. So by the time I hit like 21, 22, when people are getting into like these deep relationships, I was married to like making my craft happen. I was like, I have to do music. I have to be known. Like I just have to keep working, keep working, keep working. So I've really, honestly, been like so cliche, but I've been married to that over the past few years. Just like working on my craft. And of course, there's times where like I talk to people and I look to like craft those relationships. But usually it happens in a time where like something really important is going on in my music life. So I'm selfish. Like I want to make this goal happen, and I don't think it's fair to string somebody else along in that process. So it's usually just me most of the time, like working on my craft. But my family, my friends, like my chosen family, they mean a lot to me. So the love, the connection with them, their relationships are very important to me.
Okay. What was the question? Oh, what's your sign?
I'm an Aries.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm an Aries.
Okay.
Everything makes sense.
Cool. All right. So love, relationships, and that's just covering your platonic family and your chosen family, your friends, and your music connections. Okay. And then what comes next after that? So there was a society, culture, politics, and sex left.
I honestly think it would go in that order. It would go, culture, society, politics, and then like sex is next.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about your views right now on I want to say culture. You said that first. So culture.
Yeah. Culture to me is very important. Just growing up, being biracial, and neither like one of my parents they're not like estranged from their family, but our family on both sides aren't like really super close. Mm-hmm. So how a lot of people can like date their like families back and like culture and everything back like that, I never really had that. And I think when I first like identified as being queer and I felt like the ballroom culture and things like that, that's where I stuck like myself, because I could research that was something I could date back and find out about myself. And then as I was growing up and I just started to find more identity in myself, and I realized like more racism and how people looked at me, I don't really identify with like my white side at all. So then like identifying as black and the culture in that, and like exploring that as you're growing up, and like changing a sector to where everybody knew my mother was white to move into a place where nobody knew me, so everybody's just like, oh, you black. Mm-hmm. Like, it's such an interesting concept for me. So culture is very important, because I want to be able to create for my family in the future, like, to look back to have that connection that I didn't have. And I think that ties into society and where you grow up and how you grow up, and those kind of things. So they go hand in hand for me. Like, I would never change the way I grew up or the area I grew up in, right? Because I think it really crafted who I am as a person. But I also know when I'm building a family, the things that I want to go towards or steer away from. Okay. Which then I guess falls into politics and like socioeconomic statuses of being in those areas and what they have to offer in like your class level. And then there's like the line, and then sex is like the last thing, because it's just not important to me.
It's not important to you.
I don't know, it never has been like super important to me.
That makes sense. Going back to the culture and society part real quick. So I like to ask people if there has ever been a time you can recall where you were treated differently, specifically because of how you look and because of where you grew up. I'm pretty sure you have a little story. So if you don't mind talking about an experience that has, I guess, stayed with you.
It's funny, I guess, growing up in a way where my parents never really like told us like, hey, that's racist. Like, people doing these things to you are racist. I would deal with little microaggressions and I wouldn't realize that they were racist. But then when I was in college, like, sociology was my major. So learning about microaggressions and the things that people do to you that actually are racist, like, thinking back, I can definitely remember as early as elementary school being called the N-word, like, just for making somebody angry about some like trivial things you do in your adolescence. So I remember that, and I remember when people started to realize that I was like queer and more feminine, and like how they would treat me different. And just little things as my friends' parents telling me like what music I could listen to inside of their house. Like if it sounded too much like rap, we weren't allowed to listen to it. So as I got older and I thought back to these things in my childhood, I'm like, I really went through a lot, and I guess my parents did protect me by like not telling me that like these things were racist, so it didn't change my relationship as a kid with these people. Because when you're a kid, you can't be like, I'm gonna leave you alone. Like you're in these small classes, you're all together, everybody's friends, everybody knows each other.
Right.
So like thinking back once I learned that, it really changed my outlook on the way like adults treat kids, or like how I was treated. And then again, just instill like these are ways to make sure that you don't treat other people, or me having like biracial nieces and nephews, letting them know these things aren't right from like an early age, so they don't suppress the same things that I did.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna get you to draw now.
Okay.
So I want you to pick colors.
Okay. How many colors am I picking?
As many as you want.
Okay.
Just any colors that remind you of yourself and your life, and the things that make you happy, and things that I guess remind you of something important to you. You can pick as many as you want, and then I want you to tell everybody why you picked the colors that you picked.
Okay. So, first off, red is my favorite color. When I was a kid, I used to love Power Rangers, and the Red Ranger was always my favorite because as an Aries, they're always in charge, like always in the lead. So red was my favorite because it was like, that was safe for me to like. And at the same time, I was always super drawn to pink, and the Pink Ranger was really my favorite, but I knew I wasn't allowed to say that.
Yeah.
And I just love the connection. Like, I love bright, like, flashy colors. I picked this, like, light, I would say this is like a lilac, but you know, I'm not an artist. But this reminded me of Easter, like, as a kid, because Easter was always close to my birthday, and I just love pastel colors and, like, the contrast when you pick them with things. Orange, I just really like orange. Halloween is one of my favorite holidays. Like, I was literally thinking about my Halloween costume all day today. I just love orange. And purple has been really significant in my life since like high school. I had a friend who passed away and her favorite color was purple. So shortly after she passed away, like everything was purple, and then like purple just took over my life because I just realized that I loved purple and it meant a lot to me.
Yeah. Okay. So I want you to draw whatever you want. Don't feel pressured, and no one finishes, so don't freak out.
Okay.
I just want you to draw as best you can while I ask them the same questions.
Okay. Anything.
Anything you want.
Okay.
Okay. Camera this way a little bit. All right. So, first question: what makes you the most upset? Like, what really gets to you?
I think things that I don't know how to control. Like, I was watching this documentary this morning about two women from Saudi Arabia who were seeking asylum in Turkey, like running away from their family, and just thinking about how I wouldn't know how to like really help them outside of like financially. Like, how do you change things like this that happen to other people, or like femme people and queer people who are like harassed openly? Like, how do you change these infrastructures that are like built for so long? Things like that really frustrate me because they're things that you want to change,
Right.
but I don't really know what proper action to take.
Right.
So that really frustrates me.
Okay. What makes you really happy?
Just being outside, like being in nature. I don't like bugs. But I like being outside. I just like, I guess, enjoying the little things in life, especially now, doing music more and getting to go more places, or just becoming like an entity within a place, and people start to treat you some type of way because they have like a perceived status of you, or they think that you can do things for them. Now I just like to chill, like everyday things. I like sitting and like reading books, walking to go get coffee, and just like being with myself. That makes me really happy.
I love that. What are you afraid of?
Yeah, I'm always. I am. I think because it's been kind of like a factor in my life a lot. Death really scares me because of the uncertainty, and also just thinking that it used to be like success or lack of success, but I realized that I've done a lot, especially with the cards I was dealt in my life. So I really already felt like I've succeeded. So that's like no longer a goal, like a fear of mine. I guess I fear a lot like leaving before like really making an impact, or putting all my time and energy into pushing a dream and missing out on like my family's growth and it all being for nothing. It's like a big fear of mine.
If you were a facial expression, what would it be? Make the face.
I would either be a really big Kool-Aid smile, or I would be a bitch face. Like, and I feel like those are my two moods. Like, it's one of the other. Those are my two moods. It's either like, please leave me the hell alone, or like me laughing at the dumbest things.
Okay. Explain what social media is to you. When you think about social media, how do you use it?
Social media is a blessing and a curse. It is something, especially as like an independent artist, coming from an area that doesn't have a big musical business infrastructure. It is great in the sense that I can use it to reach audiences that would take me longer, or I might not have the opportunity to reach. But in that, it is very time-consuming when you manage it yourself, that you always kind of have to be connected, and you feel like you owe people things because they see you in a certain light, because they perceive you away from your online personality. So it is like, it definitely has its pluses, and it definitely has its minuses. So it's helped me get a lot in life that I wouldn't have, but it also creates a strain from time to time.
Okay. Do you have a 5-year plan? Are you one of those kind of people that...
I'm not. Only because I feel when you make a plan, kind of, in a way, if you're not tied to like a 9 to 5, I guess, or a solid plan that this is going to get me here, I feel like sometimes it can like stifle you in a way. So if I were to say, oh, in 5 years I want to be this, this, and this, the universe could have something bigger in mind for me, and I could be interfering by that by wanting something that is smaller and could affect my actual plan. So my 5-year plan is to just keep hustling and growing and learning, but I don't want to put a limit on what that could look like.
Okay. Do you have any vices?
Coffee.
Same.
Coffee is my vice. Coffee and gum. Shout out to Extra if y'all want to sponsor me.
What's your
chew
favorite
y'all all the
Extra,
time. The spearmint, the green.
Yeah.
Don't give me the blue pack. Like, I'll chew it, but I won't pay for it. I need the green Extra. I need it.
Okay. What is the hardest conversation you've ever had to have?
Right now, I think the hardest conversation, because I think I touched on this lightly with you when we were first planning this. The hardest conversation I've had to have recently is with myself surrounding my father. My dad just passed away in May, and I think I really within the last couple of years just started the healing process with my parents and like repairing our relationship, because I think I used to blame them for things a lot that they weren't really like in control of. Like,
what would you blame them for?
I think as a kid you look at your parents and you expect them to have all the answers, you expect them to have it together, but like when my friends started having kids, I was like, oh, like these are just people trying to figure it out.
Right.
So there was a time when my brother went through like an addiction phase, and I was like helping put him through rehab, or like spending I used to work at a college, so I would get like 3-week vacations around Christmas, while the kids were out of school, and I just remember staying in like NA meetings with him, taking him to multiple NA meetings in a night, when I was working. I was like 20, 21, and my parents not really making it my responsibility, but just kind of telling me like, we don't know how to deal with this, and like, you're the strong one. And I just realized that that was more of a blessing, and I was looking at it as a weight on me.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like blame them for little things like that, and I kind of just had to have a conversation with myself, like, you know, they just saw that I was able to handle things that they couldn't, and I had these answers for whatever reason that they didn't have, and they just had to lean on me, and I just don't think I was ready. Like, I still wanted to be a kid, but as soon as I turned 18, like, things started going on in my life, and I had to grow up. And I would blame them for that, but that really wasn't their fault. Like, it was just the cards that were dealt.
Right.
So I started that healing process, and I just feared that my dad didn't know that I loved him as much as I did, or as much as I love him still. And that was a conversation I had to have with myself, like, it's okay. Like, he knew.
Yeah.
But I had to start that healing process. And that was a real conversation I had to have with myself.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What is one of the most challenging things you've ever had to go through?
Again, I think the death of my father. Yeah. Just being the strong one in my family, and just having to make the decisions or take care of like arrangements and little things like that.
Wow, that's heavy.
Even being like I'm the baby of the family, so it's like y'all supposed to have the answers, and y'all supposed to be like cradling me, like typically in these times. But again, I just had to look at it like this is the role that I play, and just continuing on. But that taught me a lot as well.
What don't you want to tell people but know you should share because it could help someone else?
I think a lot of people who know me have this thought process that like, it's always like Couture has it together. It's hard for me to ask for help, so I kind of suffer in silence sometimes. But then I preach to people like, always ask for help, like always reach out. So I think sometimes people knowing that low-key I'm a hypocrite, like I tell people that because I know the things that I go through when I do it to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think people knowing that I'm like, to listen to me, do as I say, not as I do. Like, because sometimes I'll give people great advice, but I don't listen to it.
Okay. Tell me about an embarrassing moment.
Oh God. It was actually the other day. Like, I was in New York a couple weeks ago, and
for Afropunk, right?
Yes. Okay. And they canceled my bus last minute. Don't ever travel Greyhound. It was like the latest bus I could get because I had something going on that day. So they canceled my bus 2 minutes like before it was supposed to come. So I had to like pick another bus and go out, catch the bus. Either way, I got to New York at like 2:45 in the morning. So they like redoing the L train. So they had one of the stations shut down.
Oh my!
And I like went down, and then I seen the signs like, okay, the train is shut down. So, all right. And I had slept on the bus, so I had just woke up, and I tripped going up the steps, and I like had my phone in my hand, so I like cracked my screen of my phone, and I was just like, everybody just saw me bust my ass. But at the same time, I was really too tired to care.
Right.
But I think most recently that was like the biggest thing.
The thing, yeah.
The icing on the cake.
Oh my God. Do you have any weird habits?
I think sometimes, to me, my gum chewing is a little excessive, and I think it's a weird habit to the point that it's like a nervous thing.
Yeah.
And like when I host parties, or even when I perform, like I have to have gum. So I'll like low-key freak out if I like don't have it. I'll be like, I need somebody. It's like a stress relief for me. So I do that a lot. I talk to myself, like I have like whole ass conversations
Me too.
with myself, and I be laughing at everything. Like I'm so funny, and people just sometimes my friends be like, "There's just something wrong with you." But those I think are like my two biggest things, and the fact that I think my creative process is a little weird, so I have to be like in motion. So sometimes I'll just like move around, or I'll like randomly go for a drive. Like I have to drive right now at 2 o'clock in the morning and like turn my voice memo on to like work at a song. So those are like little like quirks that I have.
Yeah. How many pieces of gum do you think you go through a day?
So I have a really big mouth, so I chew 2 pieces at once. But I would chew it until it like I've had this gum in my mouth since like noon. So I would like chew it because extra don't get
like
gritty.
7.
Like
Okay.
juicy fruit and stuff gets like gritty and nasty.
Weird, yeah.
Extra don't do that. So I will literally like chew it.
So you haven't eaten for 7 hours?
No, and if I do, I like take it out and I'll put it like on my
so
coffee top.
So you'll get a new one. Oh my gosh.
And like when my friends ask for my gum and then they like chew it for like 20 minutes and then spit it out, like I feel really disrespected by that. So some of my friends, I'll be like, you can't have none of my gum.
Because I could be chewing it for so long.
Or then it makes my pack uneven because I chew 2 pieces at once. So then if you give one, I have to give another one away.
Oh,
it's too much. It's too much.
I think that's amazing. Do you send important information through text, or do you like to have face-to-face conversations with people?
Like business-wise or like person-wise?
I would say personal.
Personal things. I am not a texter because I get I've calmed down a lot in the past few years.
I've grown.
I used to have like a really bad temper. So I get frustrated and like flustered really easy. So if somebody frustrates me and I'm texting and then they're responding before I can get out what I'm trying to say, that frustrates me more. And then I think the tone of things gets taken wrong in text.
Yeah.
So I figured out that, especially like as I've grown, a lot of miscommunications can just simply be changed by having a conversation.
Right.
So I prefer to talk, definitely.
Okay, and then when it comes to business?
I am an email bitch all the way. I'm like, send me an email. Like, people will see you out. And that's the thing for creatives and stuff. When you're starting, people will see you out and they'll be like, oh, I'm working on this show. Like, what's your rate? And I feel like people try to get you while you're out so you can just spit the first number out that comes. So I tell people all the time, that is one thing I love about Instagram. I'll say, do you follow me on Instagram? They say yes. There's an email link that goes directly to my booking email. Send any information to that. Like any business, I've learned to have a paper trail and a contract because emails can be used as like it may not be signed, but it was written like comprehension of what you had going on.
Right,
so
from
that can stand up.
Yep. Have you been burned before because of somebody?
Definitely. Okay. So get everything in writing.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, what is the craziest thing you've ever seen?
I don't know. One time when I was younger, a friend of mine had gotten in a fight with his friends. Well, I was younger. I was like 17, 18. That was my mom's friends. But he got stabbed. And he like came to our house when he got stabbed because they were like around the corner at like a cookout. So he got stabbed and then he came to our house and my mom was like, take him to the hospital. So like driving to the hospital while he's like bleeding in my mother's vehicle was like wild to me, being like 16, 17, 18, like seeing that I think is on the list of one of the wildest things.
Is he okay?
Yeah, he was fine. Like nothing, like he didn't get punctured bad anywhere. He didn't get like hit critically, but it was like he was bleeding a lot because it was crazy.
Are you self-conscious about anything?
I am definitely being in this industry it's weird because I want to say like image based, but I'm not really like, I'm very comfortable with how I look, but I think I'm self-conscious about how I come across, and being like a bigger person, like how clothing items look on me, or like how I move in things, and how people, like when I'm doing a performance, I have to rehearse in front of a mirror because I need to know what other people are going to see. Because if not, it kind of like makes me anxious, and I think that goes back to like being bullied a lot when I was younger. But like just other people's perception of my image is like weird to me. I guess in turn I do have an issue, but it's not like something within me. I care more about like other people, and that's solely because I know that a lot of youth follow me, and if they see things like written on my page, I don't want them to then be apprehensive about doing things because somebody has an opinion.
Right.
So I guess I try to make it like the best and like flawless way to do it, so that way it doesn't catch any flack, so other people find confidence to be able to do what they want to do. If that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. Do you look up to anyone?
I look up to a lot of people. Personally, I look up to my siblings, even with all the good and bad decisions they've made. I look up to my siblings. I look up to a lot of my friends artistically. Missy Elliott is like a visionary, is one of my biggest influences. Left Eye is a really big influence. It's mostly like my friends around me. I love to be inspired by people whose journeys I've seen. So my friends inspire me a lot.
What do you wish people knew and understood about you? Like, do you feel like you are ever misunderstood?
I think more personally, I'm a very like, when I'm comfortable with people, I'm definitely more expressive, but like right away, I'm very dry. So sometimes I think things are perceived in a way different than what I mean them, or I just don't care to put emphasis on what I have to say. So it comes off really like raw and aggressive. So I wish people would like stop drawing that like aggression card, like you're just so rude. Like if they feel that type of way, mostly that's when business comes into play. But I just want people to understand that when you've had to fight for everything yourself and it's yours, a lot of passion comes with that.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing for me.
What do you feel will restore connection in our generation? Like, what do you think we need to do to make things better?
Getting off social media. I think a big reason that we have a disconnect is a lot of people interact within the parameters of like texting or emails. There's not a lot of like face-to-face or like phone calls or things like that. And I can tell I'm like on that generational gap of we had the internet, but not until I was like 14, 15. So I grew up knowing how to like communicate with people, or like hanging out with friends and talking things out because we didn't have the option to like bully each other online. So I think just like learning how to like really connect with people, and just stop focusing on how other people, now I know this is going to sound hypocritical to what I just said, but for even people who aren't artists, stop focusing on how people perceive you, because I think a lot of people want to be kinder and more loving, but are afraid that they're going to be perceived as like weak or whack. And I think if we stop that and like draw the line on that, it'll really change the way that we interact as a generation. Definitely.
Okay, 2 more questions.
Okay.
Second to last, what's missing?
What's missing? Ooh. So, in our generation, or just
Take
in general?
Question however you want to
So
take
what's missing? As an artist, I see a lot of people getting praise for. Let me rephrase how I want to say that. What's missing is practice and perfecting something before you claim it. I think a lot of people will make one song and be like, I'm an artist, but they're performing live over backing tracks. They don't understand the business of what's going on. They don't know how to write. They don't practice their instrument. That is something that I think we could change. We could really go back to crafting talent or investing in the people who might not look the best, but they have everything that you need. And I think sometimes people think that they're not good enough because a lot of times, especially as like queer Black people and people of color, women in general, we have to prove it on our own, like being underrepresented within our communities. We have to prove it in our own and really go hard for everything that we do and let other people see that they can like reap a benefit from it before anybody will invest in us. So that's crazy to me.
Yeah. Okay, last question. So all of the electricity goes out, but the TV screens, the computer screens, the phone screens stay on, but nobody has control over them. They're just on. And it says PSA, public service announcement, and then it's your face. So like...
Okay, I'm into this. Netflix original. I'm into this.
So you have everyone in the world's attention. What are you going to say? Or what are you going to do?
I would take that time to tell people to reset their mindsets. Speak to somebody they haven't spoken to. Reach out to somebody who maybe they've wronged or they feel like it's wronged them. Instill love first into their everyday life. Treat people, as cliche as it sounds, treat people the way that you want to be treated. Just spread love and care about other people. Because, you know, when the power go out and my face pop up on the screen, they're going to be like, what the hell is going on?
Right.
And who is this person?
Right.
And then when you freak out about things, you tend to listen. So I would definitely tell them, like, lead with love, lead with compassion, reset everything. Like, just start over. Dead everything that happened in the past. Start over. You're a new person. It's a new day. Start your life how you really want to live it.
Thank you so much. This was amazing.
This was fun.
Let me see what you drew. Show the camera.
Okay, so I can't draw. I know my strengths and my weaknesses. So instead, I wrote my name because I knew that I could do that cute. Yes. And then I wrote dream big, work hard, and love freely. And then I just filled in the rest of the space because I didn't want to disrespect your paper. I wanted to take up all that space.
Can you sign it for me?
Of course.
Even though it's your name. But... I'm
gonna do it in a darker color so that way you can see it. This is Couture in the flesh.